Welcome to Good Evening Gamers, a video blog series that strives to understand what makes a video game good by analyzing and discussing aspects of its game design. I'm your host, Jonathan Q. Tuttle, and this week I'd like to talk about having a single narrative through a game. Now, having a video game with full voiceovers is not that uncommon anymore. In fact, even with a limited budget, a game designer can go to a website like Fiverr and hire an entire cast of voice actors for their game.
Wow, I really can't move my body.
What did you do, Nicole?
Perfume digitalis, a type of muscle relaxant gas. You probably don't understand the logic, but you can feel the effects, no?
But does it make sense for every character to have a voice? Does it drive the story better with many voices or just a single voice? This week I'd like to talk about a well-known game by Valve called Portal and how it uses a single narrator to instruct the player, drive the story, and create one of the most memorable villains in gaming history.
You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
If you've never played Portal, you should. Not only will you be met with wonderful puzzle-solving experience, you'll be introduced to one of the most famous villains of the modern era, the rogue artificial intelligence you'll come to love and to hate, Glados.
Well, you found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it? Because despite your violent behavior, the only thing you've managed to break so far is my heart.
In Portal, on each level you'll play, Glados speaks to you as this bodiless, computerized voice. At first, she comes across to you as a trainer, your mentor, aiding you in acclimating to the gameplay mechanics of the game, and even promises you a reward at the end.
Cake and brief counseling will be available at the conclusion of the test.
But with each passing level, there's hints to something deeply sick and sinister about Glados. And just when you should be met with a reward and a celebration, she tries to burn you alive.
Congratulations. The test is now over. All Aperture technologies remain safely operational up to 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Rest assured that there is absolutely no chance of a dangerous equipment malfunction prior to your victory candescence. Thank you for participating in this Aperture Science computer-aided enrichment activity. Goodbye.
Filmmakers will often exclaim that true character development is done through dialogue. Now, most games leave the villain for the end, and I think that creates a disconnect of motivation between the player and their driving goal. Sure, the game can be fun, but because of the constant conversation from Glados, starting her as your trainer and then ultimately the betrayal, it makes it personal towards the player.
What are you doing? Stop it.
So the relationship between the goal and the villain and the player are started right from the beginning of the game, reinforced by every level going forward, building this relationship with the player and creating a vested interest in wanting to get to the next level other than just the fun puzzle solving. I've begun to see this formula pop up in a few games, and I'll talk about it as some of those other games in other episodes because I think they give interesting variations about what we can take from Portal. Building a relationship with the villain from the beginning of the game, and as often as possible, makes the player really want to conquer the villain. It gives the player more of a sense of accomplishment when they finally do get to that end level and beat the villain. Kind of like Batman finally killing Joker. Having that persistent dialogue is important. Let's take Super Mario Brothers, for example. Imagine if you were going through the stages and while you were playing, you could hear Bowser's voice tantalizing you, being brazen about how he set up all these traps for you, taunting you about what he's going to do or is doing to the princess. I mean, not to be a pervert, but he's captured her how many times and just not flat out killed her? He probably takes pleasure in torturing her or other things. That example, that dialogue exchange with Bowser and Mario, that would give Bowser a much deeper personality than just a big dinosaur who really enjoys capturing a princess who wears pink. Personally, what I think would be interesting for a game designer to explore is to have an RPG like Final Fantasy as an example, where the whole game is narrated by just one character, almost like narration of a book. And sure, you could have one of the heroes or a neutral party member narrate, but imagine Final Fantasy VII, for example, as everything was narrated by Sephiroth, the villain, a character who feels betrayed by the world, who wants to destroy it. Think about how twisted the perception of the game could become. So what is the lesson of the day? Even if it's just one voiceover, when written and performed well, it can change the dynamic of the game. In this case, it elevated Portal from being a really excellent puzzle game to a must-play experience, to an almost survival thriller. And another lesson is that the impact of having the villain as an interpersonal relationship with the player from the beginning of the game that is reinforced throughout the game adds to the goal of the player to try to get the villain defeated, to try to defeat the villain. It's much more satisfying and much more personal, thus creates multiple driving factors of the player wanting to beat your game than just to make it to the end. I hope you've learned something from this week's episode, but I'd really like to learn something from you. So if there's a gameplay mechanic, level, or feature of a game that you really think is something all game designers could learn from, please don't hesitate to comment below or tweet to me over Twitter. I'm always looking for new suggestions. Also, don't forget to subscribe below. I'll be making more of these videos from week to week. I'll also be adding a podcast soon where I interview game designers and other members of the video game community. So look out for that soon. Thanks.